Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, how you doing out there? Everybody good? Good. Okay, so continuing my coverage of the most exciting. No, I'm playing. I'm messing with you. I'm just continuing my coverage on Wesley So. This is another game between Wesley So as white, Magnus Carlsen as black, and it is the 2020 St. Louis Rapid and Blitz. And as you guys know out there, pretty much all of 2020's events, other than Weekend Z taught us still earlier in the year, have been played online. So this is following that same deal. And so this is the Blitz portion, and it is round 9 of the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz. Like I said, between Wesley So and Magnus Carlsen. So if you guys are ready to go, let's take a look at it and see what we have here. All right, let me see. All right, so we have E4. All right, E5. Knight to F3. Knight to C6. Bishop to B5. And so right here on the board, we have the Ruy Lopez. And like I said before, it's one of the oldest. It's one of the oldest openings in chess. It has roots all the way back to the late 1400s. It was named after a Ruy Lopez de Segura, a Spanish chess player in the 15th. I want to say early 1500s, late 1400s, early 1500s. It was named. It was analyzed very severely by Ruy Lopez de Segura. So, like I said, one of the oldest chess openings we know of. Of course, chess is. They say chess was. It has come from an Indian game in 6th century A.D. Called Chaturanga. Yeah, so a lot of what we know about the game and the big revolution for chess was in the 14 and 1500s. So that's where we get a bulk of our knowledge and stuff of the game. So moving on here. All right, so we have A6. All right, so we have bishop to A4. This is Morphy's way of playing. A lot of times you'll have the exchange variation, with D takes and stuff, and you'll go into castling, maybe bishop G4 or bishop D6 and stuff like that. But Morphy preferred to play bishop to A4. It just kind of keeps a lot of options on the board, and just makes it possible for a lot more tactics and stuff to be involved. So, all right, so we have knight to F6. All right, so we have castles, and so this pawn isn't very free. As soon as you take, you're gonna have rook to E1s, D4s coming, so you're gonna be able to get your pawn back. So it's not like you're just losing the pawn. All right, so we have bishop to C5, and this is the let me check here, the Ruy Lopez Morphy Neo-Arkhangelsk. If I said that correctly, I probably didn't. For those of you that play this, I'm sorry if I butchered it. I don't actually play this variation myself, so it's kind of a tough word. Arkhangelsk. I don't know, something like that. I'm kind of close. It's a tough word. Anyway, that's what we're in. All right, so we have C3, just trying to give the bishop some room to kind of come back, or prepare for D4 to get pushed and stuff like that. So you just want to give the center a little bit more support, and also try to keep this knight out of being an annoying knight here. All right, so we have castles, and like I said, we have D4, just trying to crash through the center, get you some center space here. All right, so we have bishop to A7. All right, so we have pawn takes E5. Knight takes E4, and so now with your king out of the center of the board, you don't really have any rook to E1 type of tactics, pinning any pieces down to the king. All right, so we have queen to D5, knight to C5, asking that bishop what it wants to do, undefended bishop. So like I always say, guys, just try to see what pieces might be undefended for the other side, and see how you can try to take advantage of those and attack. All right, so we have bishop back to C2. All right, knight to E7, queen to D1. All right, so we have D5. All right, pawn takes D6, en passant. Queen takes D6, queen takes D6, C takes D6. All right, so we have rook to d1. What's that rook down? Right. Okay. All right, so we have bishop to g4, and we have bishop to e3. Now, so for those of you that are wondering, that is actually a pawn. I mean, this is a pawn that you can definitely take. There's not any tactics or anything that are involved. You're not going to lose a piece or, you know, fall to any type of, you know, situation. This bishop is doing a really good job of kind of keeping this knight at bay. So for those of you that study endgames, you know, there's sometimes there's a situation where you'll have the knight. It'll be over here on the rim. And you know, you might have a bishop. So let's say, for example, the knight's right here. And you'll have a bishop, a light square bishop. Let's say the light square bishop is there. And it's kind of controlling this whole thing. It's kind of boxing that knight in. It's the same similar type of concept in this situation. You know, the bishop is controlling, you know, all of these squares. And so the knight doesn't really have, you know, anywhere that it can try to jump into. And so, like I said, there's not anything that black would do in this particular position if you did take the pawn to exploit the fact that you took the pawn. But, you know, definitely be careful in the future when you're thinking about taking a pawn, because sometimes it is a poison pawn. So, but like I said, in this particular position, you have the ability to take it with no risks. Yeah, for those of you out there that was like, hey, man, can I just take the pawn? You can. So good job. For sure. All right, so we have bishop takes f3. All right, we got pawn takes f3. And we have d5. Knight to d2. Knight to e6, knight to b3, and so we're offering a trade of the bishops here. Now, you know, you definitely could take the bishop if you want to, but it's something that's going to actually do for white. So like I said before, guys, you know, you don't want to just automatically go into trades. You definitely want to try to see like what you're going to be gaining or what the opponent's going to be gaining in those type of trades. So we just kind of go into a side variation real quick. You know, it's probably not hard for you to visualize that this, you know, bishop takes e3 is pretty much going to solve all of white's problems. You know, if you're looking at white's position right now, the knight is kind of off to the side a little bit. It doesn't have like a lot of scope. It's definitely not centralized. And of course, you know, you have these double pawns here on the f file. So, you know, white's dream, you know, if they were to go to sleep and say, okay, I'm about to dream for a better position. Okay, this is what they would want to do. They would want you to take the bishop here. And so basically they're able to, you know, somewhat correct their pawn structure. You know, of course, you know, you have the 3 pawns over here. You have the 2 hanging pawns here. And then you have a, you know, isolated pawn here. But, you know, if we just back up a touch, that's definitely better than, you know, the situation I have here. Because, you know, you're going to have this isolated pawn and these pawns over here anyway. So the better case scenario is for, you know, the bishop to take here and you take back right here. And then at least, you know, you have some good control over the d4 square, and you've made it a little bit easier to play from the white side. So, you know, of course, black's not going to do that because it's like, hey, I'm not trying to help you win the game, right? You know, I want to win. You know, we're trying to be selfish here, right? All right, so we have rook f to d8. All right, so we have rook to d2. And we have d4. And this is actually the novelty of the game. What was played in the past is b5. And so it's kind of doing kind of like a little minority attack, just trying to undermine, you know, this pawn here. Just kind of weaken the structure a little bit. d4, you know, basically the situation is in this position for black, you can't waste the tempo. Because if you do waste the tempo, if you do give white another move, you know, they're gonna move rook a to d1, and basically it's gonna make it impossible for you to like ever push this pawn. And so, like I said, guys, I mean, when you have an isolated pawn and you're the side with it, you definitely want to control the square in front of it, and you know, try to push it. And the same thing for white. White is going to try to play against your ability to push that pawn. And so in a dream case scenario, if it's able to move this rook over, it's basically completely controlled this pawn here, this square here, and made it completely impossible for you to push it. All right, so like I said, we have d4. Knight takes d4. Bishop takes d4. Bishop takes d4. Knight takes d4. I'm making it sound like a lot more exciting than it actually is. We're just really just trading pieces down. So it's not like crazy exciting. It's not like a heavyweight bout or anything. Rook takes d4. Rook takes d4. And pawn takes d4. So as you guys can see, we ended up winning a pawn anyway. So white is 1 pawn to the good. Now, like I said before, with these with the position, if you had a really healthy pawn chain like black does, you just added a pawn to that and took a pawn away for white. So let's say, for example, you took this pawn. Oops. Let's say you took this pawn and just moved it up here, made it black, right? You know, black would be a pawn up, and it would have a really beautiful pawn structure. So it'd be a little bit different than white having this extra pawn because, you know, yeah, you do have the extra pawn, but, you know, you have this isolated pawn, you have this isolated pawn, you know, you have these two doubled, you know, isolated pawns. You know, you have these connected pawns over here. But because the structure is so unhealthy, you know, white only has a slight advantage here. It's not like they're just like completely winning the game. It's going to be kind of easy for you to control these squares in front of the pawn and try to prevent it from you know, getting to the promised land. All right, so we have rook to d8. Let's see here. All right, so we have bishop to e4. Just kind of giving the pawn away, but I mean, you know, of course, you're attacking this this vulnerable b7 square. Another alternative would have been, you know, possibly to move rook here and go ahead and put an attack on that rook. You know, try to see if you can't get that rook onto the 7th rank. So, like I said, we have bishop to e4, rook to d7, just protecting that pawn instead of pushing it there. All right, so we have rook to d1, and we have f5. You know, just trying to, you know, knock that bishop back to a more undesirable square, you know, using your pawns wisely. All right, so we have bishop back to b1, king to f7, a3, just creating a little bit of space for this bishop to come up here. King to f6, bishop to a2. Like I said before, you know, we're trying to push this pawn, get it to the promised land, so it can live out its dreams of being a queen. And so, you know, you're gonna want to try to, you know, control the square directly in front of it. All right, so we have knight to c6, just attacking that pawn there. We have d5. We have knight to e5. King to g2. As amazing as it sounds, the players actually agreed to a draw in this position. Like I said, it was a blitz game, so I mean, they each had a couple minutes on the clock, so it wasn't like they had just forever. When I was watching through the video of the game, because, you know, they have all this stuff on YouTube and stuff like that. You know, Maurice Ashley, you know, the guy that's, you know, he's like triple zeros. Like, I mean, for any of you guys out there that literally watch chess like I watch chess, you know that literally this is Maurice Ashley, triple zeros. Like, he's like, you got. I mean, I'm kind of doing him a little bit like. He's like, it's triple zero. It's just, I love that dude, man. If it wasn't for him, I don't think I would be as interested in chess as I am, because he definitely like adds flavor to the game. But no, Wesley, Maurice Ashley, he had mentioned, you know, it's him, Jennifer Shahade, and you know, Yasser, the great Yasser Sirawan. So hopefully I can meet them someday. You know, I definitely wouldn't mind. You know, at the board, I'm definitely like, I hate you. Like, I mean, I'm sorry. You know, I love all y'all, but when we sit down at the board, I hate you. Like, we're enemies on the board. You know, we could be friends afterwards, but you know, so I'll hate Maurice. I'll hate them on the board, but I definitely wouldn't mind meeting Yasser Sirawan and Maurice Ashley, Jennifer Shahade, like just kind of being in that whole atmosphere. It's kind of a dream of mine. So we'll see if I can't get there one day. You know, Maurice actually was saying that, you know, he preferred, you know, G5 to come. And, you know, maybe white make some type of move or something like that. I don't know, push the pawn or, you know, just, I don't know, kind of get him some more space or whatever. You know, he was really liking, so let's just say, for example, white does just some random move. He was really liking this as an option. I mean, he was saying that he kind of thought that it was a way, you know, to try to, you know, get something rolling. And, you know, even though you are down this pawn, I mean, the king can come here. You know, the knight is able to kind of come back or even come here and put a double attack on. And, you know, you can always try to move like king over or something like that and stuff. So, you know, I thought that was kind of interesting. And it is possible that black has a little bit here. But, you know, like I said, the guys agreed to a draw. So they went ahead and just said, hey, like, we're going to go ahead and shake hands and we'll play on another day. But, you know, like I said, of course, you know, they're playing on the computer. So, you know, they couldn't shake hands. But anyway, that is the game, guys. So the game I showed before, Wesley So won. Wesley So does have a pretty good record against Magnus Carlsen, but, you know, Magnus Carlsen is the world champion. You know, he's a very tough opponent. But that is going to be that, guys. Appreciate you stopping by. Go ahead and subscribe and like for me. Let me know any other games you might like to see. And I will see you guys next time.